Hello and welcome to my video. You will see some pictures and motion clips from a small private fin test that I made in 2011 in Cape Town, South Africa. All statements are my personal point of view and should not be regarded as an official fin or product test like you see them in the surfing magazines. All fin combinations have been tested with the same board. You can see it here. It's a Horny Twinser made by Dieter Jocham from the German custom board company Horny. The board has a volume of around 80 liters with a length of 236 centimeters and a width of 56 centimeters. I told Dieter to adjust his shape, especially for the conditions in South Africa, and he did a marvelous job. The board is snappy and radical in the waves, but it's also easy to drive and covers a wide range of conditions. The sail range I used in this test were all combat sails in the sizes of 4.0, 4.5 and 5.0. In 2011 we have the typical Cape Town conditions with winds between 20 and 46 knots and waves between 1 and 6 meters. I tested the fins on all typical Cape Town spots like Platinum Beach at the Cape Point, Sunset Beach, Merkbos, Big Bay, as well as Eiserfontein. Finally, some information about my person. I'm 189 centimeters tall and my weight including harness and suit is around 90 kilograms. I'm surfing for around 30 years and since the last 2 decades, especially in the waves. Here you see the fin combinations that I used in this test. First we have the K4 fins from England. The K4 fins have a totally different philosophy than the usual G10 glass fins. Built with a combination of plastic and a small amount of glass, they follow the concept of total flexibility. This concept is taken from the wave riding scene, where flexible fins are used for radical action since years. The flex of the fin should provide more grip in the bottom turn and a more aggressive and radical cutback. I tested the K4 in the sizes of 17, 16, 15 down to 12 centimeters in different setups. Next you see the MFC fins that were delivered with the Twinser board. These are the TP models in the sizes of 15 and 16.5 centimeters and they are comparable with the current Keith the Blue fins. The fins are made of G10 glass with a classical wave fin shape with a stiff base and a flexible tip. They are typical Twinser fins with a flat profile. And here you see the Maui Ultra fins. These are X-Twins in the size of 16.5 centimeters. The X-Twins are the total opposite of the K4 fins. They don't provide any flexibility, they are totally stiff on the material. Their unique shape and the profile wants to provide secure grip in the bottom turn and loose and radical cutbacks. As you can read on the websites of Maui Ultra fins, is the underlying concept a hydrodynamic shape that does not need any flexibility to work. The construction of the X-Twins should avoid spinouts as much as possible and gives you therefore control and grip in the bottom turn, but combined with radical cutback ability. They also say that you can slide your board if you want to, but have total control over it. As such a combination is the dream of all surfers, I was very curious if the X-Twins can hold in the waves what they promise in theory. And I can already say at this point that the concept works, and it works very well. As you can see here, I mounted the fins symmetrically in their most forward position. For the K4 and the MFC fins, I also used an asymmetrical setup as well. A special feature of the Horny Twinser is that the board is very sensible when you mount the fins in the most forward position directly under the rear foot strap. This position gives you a loose board for radical maneuvers, but also a lot of unwanted and uncontrollable slides, which is not very funny in front of a 6-meter Cape Town wave. And now my test results. With the MFC fins I have the longest experience as they were delivered along with the board. They work quite well with the board so far, but if you mount them in the most forward position you have the described problem with a lot of unwanted slides. Because of this, I began early to mount them in an asymmetrical position. The bottom turn fin is mounted in the most backward position and the cutback fin in the most forward position. This concept of an asymmetrical fin position eliminates the problem of unwanted slides, gives you a good and secure grip in the bottom turn and the ability for radical cutbacks. My concept for the setup is taken from the asymmetrical boards, which were used in the late 80s and 90s. So far, I was quite happy with this concept. The only disadvantage with this setup is that you lose a little bit of the typical Twinser feeling because you cannot turn the board as tight on the bottom turn as usual with the Twinser because the fin on the side is mounted so far backwards. But therefore you have more security in your wave rides. The K4 fins show the same behavior. Mounted in the most forward position, I had the most unwanted slides of all fin setups that I tried so far. In some situations it was almost not drivable at all. Changing the fin positions into an asymmetrical setup eliminates the problem immediately. Now the fins give a very good and secure grip in the bottom turns and provide the ability for radical cutbacks. But because of the fin in the most backward position on the bottom turn side, you also lose some of the Twinser feeling. Finally, I mounted the X-Twin Maui Ultra fins in a symmetrical setup in the most forward position. And to my big surprise, I didn't have any unwanted slides anymore from this moment on. The X-Twins are the only fins I've ever tried that work with my board in the most forward position without any tendency of unwanted slides. In all conditions that I drove so far, be it high or low wind, huge or small waves, I didn't have any serious problems with these fins. They give a good and secure grip on the bottom turn and provide radical cutback ability. But you can also loosen up your board and do a controlled slide at any time you want. But if you pull your rear foot back under your butt, you have immediately back your grip and the security if you need it. I also noticed that the X-Twins enhance the drivable wind range to a higher limit with the same sail size. That means that also in situations when you are overpowered and you have a lot of pressure on your rear foot, the fins provide still a good grip and you have control and can drive your sail in a higher wind range. But to be real, nothing is 100% perfect. So also with the X-Twins I had some unwanted spinouts, but that was extremely rare and only in situations when I had too much power in the sail or when I went too high on the wind with too much pressure on the back foot. In summary, I can say I was impressed by the performance of the X-Twins from the first moment. The feeling when you ride them is a unique combination of security in combination with the ability to go radical if you want to. They performed so well on my board that after the first week where I tested all the other fins, I used them exclusively for the remaining 2 weeks that I stayed in Cape Town. Of course, I will still use especially the K4 fins for certain situations in the future, but all in all the X-Twins are the perfect fins for my board and they cover all my needs. For all of the following scenes I used the Maui Ultra fins X-Twins 16.5 cm. Enjoy!